My next guest says the Labor Party is failing to accurately represent Australia's multicultural communities. Labor Party member Wesa Chau has started a group called Poliversity, a partisan group encouraging greater representation from ethnically and religiously diverse Australians after reviewing the current situation in federal parliament and in the Labor Party specifically. Welcome, Wesa.
Thank you, Patricia.
So, I had a little look at what this was. I've looked at your website. I know you've just launched. Is this basically like the Emily's List for multicultural affairs?
Well, we got our inspiration from Emily's List. So my co-founder, jieh-yung and I decided that we need to start looking at cultural diversity. It's not on people's radar at the moment. People talk about gender, and obviously the Emily's Lists have actually done really well in terms of gender diversity. So we decided that it's time to look at cultural diversity.
So the Labor Party champions multicultural communities. What's it doing wrong?
Well, if you look at the representation in our federal parliament, it's not very culturally diverse at the moment. There's about 15% across all parties who are of culturally diverse backgrounds. But if you look at just simply representations around Asians, we only have about 4 people, including South Asia. We don't have any African representation, no Middle Eastern, and we only have 1 Muslim.
Why is the Labor Party failing to get people from diverse backgrounds into the party or into winnable seats?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's failing.
Well, given the numbers you've just provided, it sounds like a failure.
But I would say that we do need to really improve it and really lift our game. And that's why we started Poliversity, is to help the ALP to engage better with the multicultural communities, but also pre-select people into Parliament as well. And we've got really good support from the leader. Bill Shorten is very supportive, Penny Wong, who's very supportive, Michelle Rowland, who came down to launch our event, Maria Vakanu and Matt Disselwaite, who are both our co-patron. But there are a lot of other MPs who are really interested and really want to support us in this.
I wonder if we could just go back a step. Why is it important to have this kind of representation? I mean, I know it's a first principles kind of question, but why do we need to see more Asian faces, for instance, in the House of Reps?
Well, if you think about democracy is about representation. So if you don't see your face in Parliament, it really means that some of the policies that are created may not reflect the community and what people think. So when you have diversity, and we see that in businesses, that when you do have diversity, you have better governance.
What do you say to people who argue that this, again, may compromise merit-based pre-selection? That if you've got Emily's List pushing for women, then we have now a new layer via your group that pushes for cultural diversity. How do you make sure that you always choose the right candidate?
Well, you'll never always choose the right candidate, regardless of you know what communities you're talking about. But this is what I will say. To say that there's no merit in culturally diverse people as well as gender, that's just wrong, because the assumption is only white middle-aged men have merit, and this is the wrong argument really, because everyone has merit and it's what you look at.
What are the stories people are telling you about trying culturally diverse people, trying to get pre-selection in the Labor Party? I imagine you wouldn't start this unless you were hearing that there was a big problem, that people were giving it a go and weren't getting up.
Well, we need a lot more training to people of culturally diverse background, because they don't necessarily get into politics as the first preference. And without getting into politics early on, sometimes you don't really understand the tricks, you don't understand the process, and so it makes it really hard for people from culturally diverse background to actually get pre-selected. But last time, if we look at the pre-selection at Wills, we do have, quite a number of really good candidates, and that's what we want to see.
So what will your group do on a practical level to ensure this happens? Give me an example. We're obviously, going up to a federal election. Some pre-selections are still up for grabs, as we know.
Yeah, well, for our group in this election cycle, what we'll start doing is to create environments and platform for people to start discussing really important policies and policies that are important to their lives as well. So really getting the party to engage with people from diverse cultures, rather than just as a, during election to go to the communities and just for fundraising, to actually engage people in policy development.
The Labor Party has historically been embroiled in lots of controversy over ethnic branch stacking. How do you think that's affected this debate? Do you think that kind of behaviour, sometimes what looks like really corrupt behaviour, has coloured this issue?
Well, I think there are two issues here. First of all, branch stacking doesn't always just happen with culturally diverse.
Oh, absolutely not, but it has.
But
often with white candidates.
And the other issue is that whenever there's a culturally diverse candidate, people assume that they got there because of branch stacking. I think the discussion needs to be broadened to see that there are candidates out there who are there because of merit, culturally diverse candidates who are there because of merit.
Well, you've started the group. You must have political ambitions yourself.
Well, I was a candidate in the 2013 election, and it is one of what we're trying to do is to create a whole network of us. Not just.
But there's one thing being a candidate, but being in a winnable seat is a whole different ballgame, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and that's what we want to do, is to identify the ones who have capabilities and who are good culturally diverse candidates, and provide all the support systems in place to actually get them into winnable seats.
Well, it'd be really interesting to see what kind of outcome you get. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Very interesting there. We'll see.